Hello, everyone, and welcome to our latest edition of our Global Market Wrap. So today we're going to check in with all of our foreign offices. We've got some great guests that are going to join us. We're going to talk about what's going on the ground in each of these markets, and then we'll get some predictions of what we see coming out for the future. So I'm joined with Zoe over in Hong Kong.
Hi.
Hey, Zoe, how you doing?
Yeah.
We've got Glenn over in Singapore.
Hi, everyone. Pleasure to be here.
All right, Glenn. Hope we didn't keep you up too late. We've got Patrik Hoffmann over in Switzerland.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Patrik. And finally, Christophe in Dubai.
Hi, everyone. Glad to be back at this Global Market Wrap.
It's great to have you all with us here today. So first, we're going to go to Zoe over in Hong Kong. Zoe, how's the market looking on the ground in Hong Kong?
The market is strong as ever. I always tend to think that trends typically start in Hong Kong and the rest of Asia, and then it trickles down to other global markets. And we're really seeing some interesting trends come out of Asia right now. I think that people are definitely taking advantage of the strong market. We're seeing so many people come direct from authorized retailers and trying to sell watches because they know that they can make money from it. Today, I actually was offered the Hodinkee Tag Heuer collaboration that I think was released just a week ago, and someone messaged us to sell it saying that he wants a premium for it. And that just shows you, like, people are so interested in buying watches to potentially make a profit. It sometimes works in our favor if we want that inventory, if it's good stuff. But besides that, I would say watches that are trending right now would be something that is a little bit different or unusual than your typical run-of-the-mill Rolex or Patek. People are looking for interesting case shapes, maybe something a little bit vintage, funky dials, interesting movements. People are really going more towards something that's different, because I think at this point, everyone in Hong Kong kind of has all the hot pieces already.
No, I think that's a fascinating point. It's like we are seeing the flippers come out on the new introductions without a doubt. And, you know, I love it and I hate it because it's fun to have new inventory coming in, but it's like, I'd rather have somebody buy it who actually loves the watch and just wants to enjoy it. But, you know, that's not the reality of the market today. I think Hong Kong always sets the trends. It's been like this for 20 years, and we're definitely seeing the market get driven over there. I love getting the feedback from the Hong Kong office because typically 2 or 3 weeks later, we see that trend hit the US. Now, what's the coolest thing you've seen come across your desk in the last week or two?
So going more towards what I was just talking about, how people are looking for something different, I would usually go for a Rolex or an FP Jour, and those are my two favorite brands. But today I wanted to go a little bit out of my comfort zone, and I picked a Daniel Roth. This is an Ellipsocurvex Chronomax Masters Chronograph. And what I really like about this piece is that it's something unusual, the case shape. No other brands really do anything like this. I think this particular model is just after, I think, Daniel Roth sold his independent brand to Bulgari, but it still has very classic Daniel Roth characteristics, the case shape, the stepped dial, the very elegant Roman numerals, that are just so classic, but it's in a modern case size. And I think this type of piece, when you look at it, the skeletonized movement, there's just so much depth to it. And this is something that you wouldn't get bored having on your wrist.
That's an awesome piece. I love the DNA. That's definitely Roth. Very cool. All right, Christophe, we're going to jump over to Dubai. How's everything going in the UAE?
Well, everything is fine. The market is probably similar to Hong Kong, very strong. Since the last market wrap, things have been going very well. January and especially February were very, very strong. The team here has been doing a great job. So we see a lot of traction, and very pleased with how the market is reacting. Very pleased with the average retail price going up in a nice way, which tends to prove what Zoe was saying, that the market is really getting stronger and stronger.
Now, what's the situation on the ground there? Are people coming back for tourism? Is the country open? I mean, again, we're still fairly locked down here in Philly, but just curious what it's like on the ground in Dubai.
I think we're extremely privileged here. Market has been reopened since more or less last July. And we are having a normal life. There is no more lockdown, stores are open, restaurants are open. And since the market reopened, we saw the traction going back into the store in a nice way. I would say today it's a 60-40% breakdown between online generated business and retail business. And we see some nice nationality actually coming in the stores from all over the world. So it's interesting.
Very interesting to see that happening. And so what watch do you want to tell us about today? What have you seen over in Dubai?
So funnily enough, again, I'm going to quote Zoe back in Hong Kong. She was telling us how the market is reacting and moving away a little bit from the usual 4 pillars into investigating new case shape, new positioning, new brands, a bit more on the creative side. So my pick actually today was MB&F. So talk about creativity, unusual shape. And within MB&F, my pick was the latest Perpetual calendar evolution that was launched a few months back. It's a really interesting watch. It's probably one of the best Perpetual calendar out there in the market from a technical point of view. And I like the way how they presented, very unusual to present a Perpetual calendar in a sportive kind of use and environment. All the communication was around, this is a piece you can wear when you play tennis, when you go swimming, which was very unusual for
Perpetual.
For a Perpetual. So that's my pick for this market wrap, MB&F Perpetual calendar Evo.
I think that's an amazing pick. I mean, Max has always been cutting edge in this industry and continues with his partnerships, with his new introductions, just to really set the bar very high. Love his stuff. All right, we're going to jump over to Switzerland and Patrik Hoffmann. How are you doing over there?
Good, Switzerland and Europe, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a bit complicated here because we have this federal system, you know. With 26 cantons, only 8 million people, and each canton or state, you would say, has its own rules and thinks that COVID is behaving in each state a bit differently. So it's very difficult to see what's really happening, what you're allowed to do. We were in quite a bit of a lockdown. Yesterday, as a matter of fact, the shops were allowed to open again. So there was quite a rush into the shops, even into some high-end jewelry shops, watch shops, and restaurants are still closed. On a private side, I'm happy that skiing is still allowed in Switzerland, probably the only country in Europe. But that's about the only tourists we get, and that's the backside of it, because Switzerland, the market really lives from the tourists, just like Dubai, and we just don't have them. So, but the market, the local market has increased tremendously for us, particularly in Switzerland, Europe in general as well. And as Zoe and Christophe said, the average price here at WatchBox has increased tremendously. So we see really also a trend to more independent brands. It's not, as Christophe said, the 4 pillars. And that's nice. It brings some exotic pieces also into our WatchBox office here in Switzerland. Now, being from Switzerland, I would like to give you a few numbers about the industry. I think that's always interesting. The industry finished the year with about 22% minus in export figures. But that's not just the reality, because Switzerland is a big market and that's not captured in those statistics. So the actual situation is probably a bit worse. What really bothers me, and I always mention that, last year, the production and the export in units has decreased by 33%. Now just imagine that's about 6 million watches less exported out of Switzerland than the year before. I see now that the market is bouncing back, particularly because of China. China is the only country which had an upside last year. So I think the watch industry will get out of this, but it has been a real correction particularly in the lower end timepiece. That's why we see that the average price of export has increased, but less units. That's really something which bothers me.
Yeah, and I think that's why we're seeing pricing escalate as well, because less and less new goods were hitting the market, which meant less and less, people weren't trading as much. So I think a little bit of shortage on the supply side, as well as this increased demand, is certainly driving this market up.
And we will see that the supply chain is going to have some difficulties in the next few months. I'm sure that's not going to change.
Got it. So what have you seen come across your desk that tickled your fancy over there?
Well, I'm a little bit biased here because I'm in the center. So I have a good friend who has his own company, but it goes really into those pieces, which Zoe also said, and Christophe, a bit more exotic. I like some exotic pieces. I have chosen the Memoris Superlight from a Louis Moinet. It's certainly a polarizing piece. You like it or you don't like it. In my case, I like those exotic pieces. The fact that Louis Moinet prides themselves of being the first producer of a chronograph makes it special. And I like that particular piece because the column wheel is shown dial up. Now, we could probably have a discussion about the importance of the column wheel. We could discuss an hour on that, but I know there's a lot of focus on that. And in that particular piece, which is also a monopusher chronograph, it is the center of where you look into the movement from the top. And it's certainly a discussion piece. And I like to wear discussion pieces where people look out and say, oh, that's ugly what you have here. Oh, no, that's really nice. So that polarizing aspect is something which I like.
I love that pick. I love these smaller companies that also have, polarizing owners. The fact that, it's your friend and you have a personal relationship and you understand the thought behind the brand. I've always loved that part of the business. And, there's just something very special to having a brand that has a person behind it that's just passionate, and that comes through in the product.
And I think sometimes we misunderestimate this, because you have big companies, they're producing 20,000 units or 60,000 units. And if there is a boss or a patron or a chief who knows some of his customers very well, that helps. So it brings the personal touch, and watches are personal, and it's part of it.
I love that. All right, we're going to jump over to Glenn in Singapore.
Hi, Mike. So Singapore, we've been quite lucky since our last market wrap because we've opened up a bit more. Singapore's been very stable and steady. So COVID cases very low. We're now able to meet in groups of 8, which during Chinese New Year was really nice. People got to see their families, got to go and visit. Restaurants and things have opened. So we're definitely heading towards a place of a bit more normality, which is very, very nice. Our market isn't always, I would say, the most trend and cutting edge as we'd see in somewhere like Hong Kong. So we're a bit more traditional and conservative. And I think I would sum up what I've seen since our last market wrap in 2 words, and it's the name of someone we all know very well, Gerald Genta. So I think we've seen this renewed demand for the Nautilus, the APs, the Royal Oaks have gone just through the roof. We seem to have them on the website for a couple of hours and they're already sold. So they're disappearing so fast. And the other one, of course, that's famous is the VC overseas. We've just seen this out of nowhere demand soar for this watch, which I had always particularly liked. I was formerly with Richemont, and actually the VC boutique was right next door to me. And I always remember the blue dial coming out and with the 3 options of straps. Oh, this is brilliant. You have, 3 watches in one. It's a great watch, but the market didn't seem to pick up on it too much. And just as of late, it's just gone a bit insane. So Gerald Genta in Singapore is definitely stronger than ever. And it's just something that they might have 2 of the 3 and they're looking for that 3rd, or they're starting from scratch and they're trying to pick up any one of these 3. So Gerald Genta is very strong here. And the piece that I've chosen is along the same lines, but a bit more polarizing, I think, than any of the Gerald Genta. And that's the Moser Streamliner.
Great piece.
Now, I know that some people hate this watch, some people love it. I'm just completely fixated with its sort of 70s retro look. I think it's got this amazing integrated bracelet with the, you know, the polish in between the links. It's just showing you the detail, the craftsmanship, the open case back. And what I love is that we're so used to seeing, you know, standard kind of sunburst dials, and with this sort of slightly fumey dial that Moser does so well, you just have something really unusual. I mean, I probably wouldn't wear it with this outfit. I think
I was going to say it's perfect with the jacket.
Might be a bit too much, but even the fact that you've got a green dial that's not a Rolex is something really nice. So I think someone that's looking for something sporty and a bit different, I think the Moser Streamliner is a perfect watch. So it came in this morning, and I thought, with the green suit, I have to show it today.
That's a great pick. And again, I'm the same way. Like when I first saw it, I was like, I'm not really sure. And the more I see it, every time I get one on my wrist, I'm like, yeah, it's kind of growing on me. But I think I love it most because it's distinctive. They didn't just try to knock off the other brands. And then to your other point, the Vacheron has seemed to have popped in the last few weeks. And I mean, I've been actively trading them for the last 3-6 months. I love the second gen. I love the third gen, but really, we're really seeing the market react to it very strongly. So it's great to see that in Singapore too. So I'll just give a little highlight on in the Philly world. We're obviously been super busy here. We're seeing a huge pop in Rolex. And I mean, everybody's like, oh my God, yeah, Rolex, Rolex, Rolex. But nonstop lately, as soon as we're getting the special pieces, the Daytona market has gone, you know, really astronomically bonkers. I mean, platinum Daytonas have risen 15 to 20% in a matter of weeks. Yellow, gold, green Daytonas, same kind of situation. And ceramics now are well over $30,000, where, you know, I remember when we first started COVID, they had touched 20. So, you know, it's a huge jump in a very short period of time. I'm not really sure what's driving it, but we're definitely seeing that activity. I went completely traditional, sort of, on my pick, only because I love this watch. And we just picked it up yesterday, but it's a Zenith Daytona. Just happens to be a mint example, box and papers, which is awesome enough. I love the traditional Zenith Daytona, but when you flip it over, it is engraved as the winner of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. So it's the Daytona from Daytona. The winner was a race car driver who we got it from. He won in 1997. He used to drive with Newman on the circuit. It's just a great story. It's something he is an older gentleman now, and it was just time to move on. But he had such pride in the fact that he actually won the watch and was presented it from Rolex. And it's just that cool personal connection to these watches. Something I always get excited about. It was great to see this come across my desk. So we're going to jump now into what we see coming. So this year, Basel is non-existent. I know Patrik spent the better part of his life going to Basel, as did I, as I'm sure Christophe did. You know, we used to always trek over to Switzerland and stay in terrible hotels and eat mediocre food, but we got to hang out with all our friends for 3 or 4 days, which was awesome. And we got to see what was new. So obviously Basel's not happening this year, but they did come together on Watches and Wonders that's going to come up in April. It's 40 brands joining this time. So not only do we have a lot of the small brands that we would always see, but now we've got Patek and Rolex back together with the whole group. So it's going to be interesting to see. They're going to do an online launch. So I just thought it'd be kind of fun to say, hey, what do we think we're going to see? What would we like to see? And just to get everybody's different perspectives. So we'll jump over to Zoe in Hong Kong. What are we going to see, Zoe?
All right. So what I think we're going to see and what I want to see are going to be completely different.
That's okay.
But obviously, with the discontinuation of the 5711, it goes without saying that Patek is going to be focusing on their dress watches, complications. I believe this year they discontinued their 5146 and their 5905P, which are 2 annual calendar models. So in my mind, Patek's going to come out with, they're going to really be focusing on some sort of new model with an annual calendar. I think they'll also be focusing on making the college travel line a little bit more interesting. What I want to see is I'm wearing Oyster Perpetual with the Tiffany dial. I was lucky enough to walk into an AD the second day it was released and it was just sitting there. So I would love to see Rolex come out with more models with these funky dials. If they could do a ceramic Daytona with a Tiffany blue dial or these Stella colors, that would be insane. I would love to see that. I think a lot of people are also speculating and predicting that the Explorer 2 will be updated. It's about time. I think it's the 50th anniversary of the launch of the Explorer 2. Mike, I think you're probably with me on this. I know you love meteorite dials. Something that would be so cool would be if they put a meteorite dial on the Explorer 2 as like a cool 50th anniversary thing. That's something that I would love to see.
I love that idea. I haven't heard that one from anybody. Good
yeah,
call.
So if it happens.
You were the first one.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Christophe, what are we going to see?
It's everybody's guess.
Exactly. That's what we're here for.
Because for me, what would be interesting to see is more within the independent watchmaker side, what's going to be coming new there. It was interesting during the earlier presentation to see that most of the pick for this market wrap watch were actually independent small watchmakers. So I'm very interested to see what these independent watchmakers during the Watch and Wonder. So and on the more mainstream, agreed with Zoe. Let's see what Patrik will announce following the big announcement of these past few weeks. Rolex, I'm not really worried. They always come up with some nice expected launches that prove to be extremely successful. Yeah, that's about it from my side. Really focus on the independent, see what's Moser gonna do, MB&F, the Betune, and all these guys. Very interesting to see.
Very interesting to see. All right, Patrik, we're going to jump over to you in Switzerland. You must know all the answers because you're right there.
No, I'm not going so much into details because, but you know, it's really interesting. And I would like to mention what's happening with Watches and Wonders amazes me. I'm working with a brand which is going to be involved for the first time with Watches and Wonders. I mean, how they brought 38 brands together to do this within short time is amazing. And the way they're organizing this, I see how they develop this because I'm working with this brand is amazing. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a success as much as a success it can be in a digital world. I think there will be more focus that some brands have to go or want to go out of their comfort zone. I could take an example of Moser. I mean, they came with the Streamline. You could say they came out of their comfort zone. They took a risk, you could even say, and were successful. I think people are watching what Patek does because they are no more producing the 5711. You could also say they're getting out of their comfort zone because they're thinking much more long-term. And I think you will see more brands who are probably going to think twice now if they are going to try or want to depend too much on one line because they see the example of Patek. So I think that's probably a bit a trend which we're going to see. But then again, I think congratulations that they put this together. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to be great for the end consumer to watch this. There might be no party time for the people going there, but I think at the end of the day, the end consumer, and that's what we should be concerned about, our customers, they will have the benefit because they will see great things just right on time, like the dealers and the traders see it.
No, I think it's going to be great fun, and I will miss the parties, but we'll have to make our own party here.
Right, exactly.
All right, Glenn,
Mike,
please go ahead, Christophe.
You can party in Dubai in November.
I'll be there. Believe me, you know I'll be there. I can't wait for Dubai Watch Week. I already got it marked on the calendar. All right, Glenn, we're going to jump over to you in Singapore. What have you got for us?
Sure. I think Patrik made a really interesting point there about for the end consumer. And I hadn't thought about it so much, but you're right, having all these brands launch at once. I think it's fantastic, especially for, I think, younger consumers who, you know, probably a bit more price sensitive, and, you know, let's say they've got a price range in mind, and then they can see everyone's launch at once and sort of make up their mind and plan. And that's something that's really important as well. I think for, you know, we always think of, we're talking about Patek and we're talking about brands that are often so out of reach for so many consumers. And what I'm seeing as well with WatchBox is younger and younger people coming to us and getting into this, you know, hobby of collecting and investing. And it's really exciting that it's all happening at once rather than it being spaced out throughout the year. I'm quite looking forward to that. So I guess my predictions are always difficult. I'm going to go rather with what I'd like to see. And on the point of Gerald Genta, I would love for my former company, IWC, to bring back a version of their Engineer, the SL. I think that was such an interesting watch. The size was great. You know, I think this would be something fantastic for them. Obviously, they've already given us a sneak preview of their new pilots and Ceratanium, and it's a great piece. And I want them to go back a little bit to those slightly smaller pieces that make them more accessible, more wearable. So that would be one. The other thing I'd like to see from one of my favorite brands, ROLEX, is, you know, they all frustrate us a little bit with the lack of supply. So what I'd love is that if Rolex could offer more accessories and more options of customization, like I would love to be able to walk into an AD and, you know, wearing a sub, say, actually, I want a Jubilee bracelet that fits that just to make my sub a bit dressier. I mean, people like myself who collect sort of neo-vintage, we do it ourselves, but we have to hunt and we have to find like a 70s GMT bracelet and fit it on, and it doesn't quite fit right. I would love, a bit like to Zoe's point, like these new colors have opened up a whole section of buyers to Rolex. And I think if they could just do a bit more in the sort of customization and accessories point of view, like even not having to buy a third party, you know, rubber Everest bracelet for your sub, but being able to buy that from Rolex, I think that would be a fantastic thing. And it would almost, you know, it would appease us a little bit with the lack of supply that's in the market. If we could just say, well, I'll buy one watch and I can maybe have two bracelets, or I can change it to a leather strap from Rolex. I think that would be a really good thing to see. So I'd love to see Rolex doing that. Maybe with their Explorers, they might decide to offer some different options. And if that could be done for the rest of the collection, that would be great.
No, I think that would be interesting to see if they would, you know, do that. And I've heard that rumor come out on the Explorer too. So I'm going to touch on a couple of my favorite brands as well. Obviously, I think everybody knows I'm a Lange junkie. I don't think anybody else besides me noticed that they no longer make a perpetual calendar. Lange has, for many, many years, had a perpetual. It's kind of a traditional complication. I can't imagine we're going to go another year without one. So I think we'll see a new perpetual calendar from Lange. I would not be surprised if we see it in the Odysseus case. They've certainly indicated that they may want to extend that collection. They did the white gold last year. I think a complication in that case would be really interesting. I could see, you know, having those pushers set up to reset the perpetual. It would be an awesome piece. So I'd love to see that. I hope to see some perpetual from them in any way, shape, or form, but I think we'll definitely see that coming. To Zoe's point in Rolex, it's definitely the 50th anniversary of the Explorer 2. They're still using the old movements. They've been eliminating all the watches with the old movement. So I would say that's a really safe bet. We will see that go away. My only question is, will our orange hand turn green for the 50th anniversary, or will it stay traditionally orange? So, you know, we always get a little bit of green on a 50th piece typically. So maybe the writing goes green and the hand stays orange, but a ceramic bezel Explorer 2 would be awesome. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see that. And then as my wish, I'm going to go, imagine if Rolex did a high complicated movement. And I got to believe at some point in their life, you know, they gave us an annual calendar. Why wouldn't they give us a perpetual calendar someday? How cool would that be to have a Rolex that's high watchmaking and really shows the world that they can do that? I doubt we'll see it, but it would be awesome to see, and it'd be exciting and fun. But either way,
Mike, which family would you want? Which family of Rolex would you want it? Would you want a perpetual calendar in?
Oh, I would want it in a traditional Oyster, you know, 41 millimeter case. I mean, I think I think it's going to be interesting to see also what they get rid of. I mean, you know, there's only one 39 millimeter left. The Explorer original version, again, has the old movement. Rolex has always been a movement-based company, and they only typically run a certain number of them. So that we're going to start seeing the rest of those models come off the catalog. So I think we could see the last of the Explorers. We could see that. Maybe they do the whole family this year, which would be awesome, like they did with Subs, where we got a lot of great introductions in one shot. So I mean, needless to say, we're going to be spending a lot of time that week talking about product, calling each other, going, oh my God, did you see that? Which is the best fun of this business. I think this was awesome today. I really wanted to thank everybody for joining us. I love doing this on a regular basis. I think the best thing about WatchBox is the people and you guys, and having our foot on the ground in all these different places really gives us an ultimate perspective of the market that almost nobody else in this industry has. So I value this so much, and I think this was great fun. Thanks for joining us, and until we do this again.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.